will be discussing a cognitive developmental study conducted by R.J.R. Blair that intends to take a more developmental approach to understanding the psychopath. Psychopath is the term used in this study to describe an individual with a diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder. Although the diagnostic criteria of antisocial personality disorder in the DSM-5 states that the patterns of abnormal behavior begin in childhood or adolescence, many theorists have largely ignored the developmental piece of this disorder, so Blair wanted to investigate this angle. He proposed a model of the development of morality in humans that provides for a specific cause of psychopathy called the Violence Inhibition Mechanism, or VIM. Ultimately, VIM serves to stop an individual from doing a harmful action and inhibits them from wanting to do it again in the future. It does so through two vital functions, the first of those being that it allows us to emphasize, and the second being that it allows us to determine between a conventional or a moral transgression. Specifically, this allows us to know that there's a difference between breaking a rule that a teacher makes in a classroom, such as don't talk when the teacher's talking, and the difference between knowing that it's wrong to hit another person or cause them emotional pain. Because people with VIM can empathize with people when they're having a moral transgression, it causes them to want to stop performing this action so that they don't feel this pain and sadness that the victim does as well. However, Blair proposes that psychopaths lack VIM, cannot emphasize, and cannot distinguish between these transgressions, meaning that they will not stop doing violent actions and they will continue to do them again in the future. Blair tested three hypotheses. The first was that psychopaths will not make a distinction between moral and conventional rules or transgressions. The second was that psychopaths will say moral and conventional transgressions are okay to do if an authority figure permits them. And the third was that psychopaths will be less likely to make references to the pain or discomfort of victims than the non-psychopaths. This is called victims' welfare justification. In order to test these hypotheses, Blair had 10 psychopaths and 10 non-psychopaths tested. Each of the subjects were told 4 moral stories and 4 conventional stories in order to measure the ability to distinguish between the transgressions. After each story was told, they were asked a series of questions that examined their judgments of whether or not the act was okay to do, the seriousness of the act, the justification for why it was bad, and if this act would be okay to do if an authority figure said so. 2 of the 3 of Blair's hypotheses were supported. Psychopaths did not make the distinction between the types of transgressions, and they were less likely to use victims' welfare justifications. However, they did not misjudge the permissibility of these actions. Even though this finding was not consistent with his hypothesis, it is still consistent with his proposed mechanism of the VIM. Blair attributes this to the fact that all of the subjects were incarcerated, and while they were being tested, they were presumably excited and wanted to show that they had learned all of the rules of society. Since they could not make the distinction between the types of transgressions, they made up for this fault by assuming that all transgressions are independent of authority and are not okay to do even if someone says it's okay. As I said before, even though this is contrary to the stated hypothesis, it still aligns with the proposed VIM system because you attribute this to the inability to make the distinctions between the transgressions. From the results of this study, it is clear that psychopaths have cognitions and deficits that are consistent with Blair's model of VIM, or lack thereof. Though these results do not prove his suggestion that psychopaths entirely lack VIM, they definitely align with that theory. The next steps in research would be to see if there's anything we are able to do that can prevent this from happening or allow VIM to form in psychopaths, which would be for betterment of these individuals, of psychology, and of society as a whole.